Hello to viewers, welcome to my channel Science Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about cost paradox. So let's dive deep into it. Now you have to understand our world is ludicrously complex. So sometimes it may feel overwhelming to understand what the hell is going on. And yes, there are people who do their whole life focused into this and economics and all that, and they study it. They're on a very different level. They're on a very high level. I'm trying to bring out essence that will help you figure things out for yourself. Now, again, these things will not help you in day to day or immediate calculations, but in long terms it will allow you to have a much better grasp on things. Basically, you would be easily able to see solar roadway was never going to work, hyperloop was never going to work. You will have that sort of potential. So you have to understand fundamentally, no matter how complex people are like talking about supercomputer, AI, or this or that, does not matter. Core is always the same. So what's the core? Core is these three things: physics, engineering, economics. Now, fundamentally, whenever you are spending something or seeking something, you are seeking what we call value or profit. For example, if a country government spends money to build roads, they are expecting some toll, they are expecting some increased trading that will increase their revenue collection through taxes and all that. So they are expecting something return. Now, value would be safety. So what would that mean? That simply means army. Army does not have a ROI on their weapon systems. But again, why would you spend it? Again, that gives you peace. For example, India spends a lot of money on Navy. Why? Well, India has container ships that go from worldwide. How can we guarantee it? How can we guarantee that Indian container ship that left port from India can safely go to South Africa and do trading? Because we have Indian Navy. Indian Navy is like, I got you, fam. So you always want that sort of value. So it's not very easy to quantify. It's like why we are spending money. But again, that allows other things to happen. That allows the country to have a bit of peace. We have so many boundaries. We have Nepal, we have Bhutan, we have China, we have Pakistan. Together, we have so much border area. If we did not have good army, we did not have a stability in those areas. Those regions have, again, people have to shrink in. But again, that's a always losing ground. So little bit here, little bit there. How can we stop it? Have a good army. So that's a value. That's like peace as a value, and we are paying for it. And again, that's accepted. Like you have to understand, not everything is like that, but you have to understand certain things are like that. You have to pay for it. So value and profit. And if you are very lucky, both of these things could match. Which again, in case of army, it does happen sometimes. If your country is wise and they are developing their technology in-house, that technology will slowly trickle into your economy and you're gonna print some money. So you could get a scenario where both of them are aligned. But that's the whole aim of it. Either give us value or give us profit. So that's the whole point. And generally, how would you figure things out? It generally goes through these three layers: physics, engineering, economics. For example, physics says you can travel as long as you are slower than light speed, aka c. If you are, let's say, 90% of c, you're good. So physics says that. Does that mean we can actually do that? Hell no. So what can we do? Let's say in case of aircraft, you can travel Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3. That's in engineering layer. Physics is the law. Engineering is our capability. Capability is like we can give you Mach 3. Okay, so why don't we have passenger jets that travel at Mach 3? Economics says, nah, nope, you can't afford the fuel. We had Mach 2 aircrafts, passenger jets. We could not afford the fuel. We disappeared. So physics, engineering, economics, always process through all of these things. Then you can easily see things whether it's going to work or it's not going to work. So for example, if somebody says we're going to have a car that is only going to run on solar panels, if you have brain, you can figure out the physics part. Because again, engineering, we have technology to make very powerful solar cells. Heck, you can make solar cells that are 51% efficient, tri-junction solar cells, but they're very expensive. And again, if they're that expensive, they're not going to work very well in economics. Another, physics, surface area. A car surface area is not enough to have enough horsepower for our modern needs. If you can run in 1 horsepower, you can do that maybe, but we are used to 20 horsepower, 50 horsepower, 100 horsepower. Yeah, that's not happening on solar. So in this scenario, engineering and physics will help you, and economics will warn you that this most likely is a scam. So that's why you have to understand. Process all your information, these three layers, you will be damn sure about majority of things, and you will be right in long term. Short term, people can go around and around. For example, hydrogen, we're gonna do hydrogen hulululu. Yeah, it's not going to work. How? Physics layer is clear. Why it's clear? It's very simple. 8 megajoule is smaller than 30 plus megajoule. 8 is smaller than 30 megajoule per liters. You have to carry the damn thing. No matter whatever your energy carrying medium is, you have to carry the damn thing. We have done that. And again, that's why like people who knew about physics, we built it. They will be like, engineering, like, yeah, we freaking built it. There was actual passenger jet built on liquid hydrogen. There were rockets built on liquid. Heck, we used to use a hydrogen fuel cell. Now we just yeeted them in space. And then we are like, yeah, this is worthless. Let's just go back to good old solar panels and batteries. So you have to understand, we've been there, done that. So physics is very clear. Physics was absolutely clear. Engineering, we have history on that. Economics is like, yeah, no. Like, but what if Airbus is building it? Airbus is not building it. Airbus is being forced to build into it. Why? Because people forgot this layer. So again, you can force a airlines company, "No, you have to do this. We're gonna ban hydrocarbon fuel." Again, you can do that. Government can do that and will do that. But you know for a fact that it has to be undone because this layer is like, bruh, I'm here. I was here. I am here. I will be here. We had fighter jets for liquid hydrogen. People forgot about that. It's disappointing. So it's one of those things. If you can clear all these three layers, then only you can survive and thrive. And government can try. Many times they can try push through this, or like, lot of governmental projects are like that, where they're like, what if we destroy the physics part? It's like, no, you cannot. You just cannot. Laws of physics are like, bro, I'm so above you. That's like, no. Engineering is also many times is like, no. And economics is like, I'm the daddy. Like, you can do Hyperloop, Hulululu for like, a few months, and then you're gonna get bored, and then you have to actually do the calculation, and you're like, oh, it's bankruptcy plus, bankruptcy pro max. So the first layer of economics is wish. So the wish is basically, what do we want and what do they want? Well, what we want is things for free. I do not like how expensive these puppies are. And I'm really angry that I've been watching for years Linus Tech Tips having freaking hard drives that are 20 terabytes. I cannot even afford it. It's expensive EF. In India, it's like, for some reason, taxes are bonkers on these things. Cannot buy it. So I want things for free. But here's the deal. They, like, be it Seagate or Hitachi or whatever have you, they want to take all the money for free. So this is two equivalent forces. These are like this. I want to give them nothing. They want to take everything. So everything is balanced. And here's the, how do you find balance? Well, the easiest balance, which is ironic, is making things cheap. Now, like how making things cheap will make you valuable. Here's the same reason Toyota is so successful and Lamborghini keeps getting sold to other things. So you may think like, making few luxurious parties very profitable. It's not. You always want to have lot of buyers, like that gives you the buffer. So you want to make things cheap so you can actually do that. So companies are like, okay, we're gonna take enough from you that you will not suffer too much, and we're gonna we are getting enough from this money exchange that is justifiable. So that's the new meta, so to say. So make things cheap. Okay, how do you make cheap? Well, you have two options. Option number one is technology, awesome option. Option number two, cheap labor. Now here's the deal. What does cheap labor means? Cheap labor is easy option. For example, you are a laptop manufacturer. It's like, bro, we got this. We're gonna design a laptop, super awesome. You built a components, you tested it out, everything. Now here's the deal. Assembling the damn laptop, you have two options: cheap labor and technology. Cheap labor simply means you're gonna have a lot of employees who's gonna do this. Now that's a very tedious task and very, not recommended, so to say. Like, again, you do not want PhD holder to do with screws all the day. So you find cheap labor. Where do you find cheap labor? From 1980s, it has been China, cheap labor. So you went there, it's like, okay, you do this. Now, cheap labor, again, you would understand, wouldn't it cause pushback where people are not being treated and like, that's wasteful of their life? Well, yes, but again, it's out of sight, out of mind. American who is consuming iPhone, he's not seeing this Chinese poster. It's like, no more I slave. He's not seeing that. He's somewhere else. It's like out of sight, out of mind. So cheap labor allows that. And again, as China inevitably started to grow, they reached a point where they're like, oh, we are no longer cheap. So what companies did? Again, they could have still jumped back to the technology route, but they're like, is there anything cheap? Yeah, now go to Bangladesh. Is there anything cheap? Now go to Africa. If you ever wondered why the heck China is pouring so much money in Africa, is that they want to control that cheap part. So cheap labor is an easy shortcut. Like for people who are, line must go up, it's a very easy shortcut. But it's out of sight, out of mind. Otherwise, it will be, the blowback would be serious enough. Whereas like, dude, all companies doing it, because there are two contradictory forces. Companies are like, we're just going to increase our profit margin. The people are not getting cheap products. iPhones are ludicrously expensive. And here's the tragic part. The gap between the cost, like how much money they are spending to make the BOM cost, and the price, it has increased. It's not shrinking, it's increasing. So that simply means iPhone is like, number must go up, Apple must line number go up. So this is fundamentally a very short-term sustainable option. And again, we have lived through this. Now, why don't we go to tech to solve this problem? Well, you can do that, but it requires one thing that twitchy people cannot do: long-term faith. Meaning, basically, if you have balls to fail, you're gonna achieve this. For example, if you're a company, you're like, okay, we're gonna manufacture these electronics, we need Dextile robotics to do this. It's gonna take time. You're not gonna be like, okay, we have this laptop model, we're gonna try to do it, it's gonna happen in few months. No, you'd be lucky to get that puppy done in 2 years. But again, you have to have the balls to fail. For example, India got its independence. Super awesome. I like it. 75 years ago, roughly. And we are like, okay, we need an Air Force. Cool, awesome. And somebody was smoking too hard back then. I hate it. And they were like, we want a fighter jet. Cool, awesome, GG. It has to be Mark II capable. This is 75 years ago. Like F-16s, they're coming to the market. They're not there in the market. And literally, I'm not joking, this happened. Now, again, thankfully, India did have some German scientists. Yes, we also got some German scientists. Operation Paperclip was not the only clips. There were other countries also, including India. So they were like, okay, India has nothing. India just got independent, but they built a surprisingly good infrastructure, HAL. So that infrastructure was built, the whole ecosystem was, and they started to manufacture it. But again, opening Mark II back there, there were only few companies that could even have a jet engine that can do that. So again, jet engine we had to import. Now we built it. Marut was the fighter jet name. And here's the deal. That time, Soviet Union, our ugly friend, they were like, if Indians actually start to work on this, again, we knew for a fact, but at least we figured out airframe surprisingly early on. And imagine, we had the pipeline, we keep building on it brick by brick, day by day, it's gonna improve. And they're like, what they did is like, okay, you want Mark II? Here's Mark II, F-21, MiG-21, sorry, MiG-21. It's like, and somebody was stupid enough, they bought cheap labor part. And India became crippled after that. That's why we do not have Air Force. Like, our aircrafts are always foreign made. That's the reason for it. If we had the balls to like, okay, we're gonna build it. It's not gonna be awesome. Again, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, how do you think Israel just made Iron Dome? Day one, it worked? Hell no. They had spent years on it. Now it's like, okay, finally it can actually intercept 50%. Okay, now finally it can intercept 60%. Okay, now we are reaching a point where we do not have enough ammunition. Okay, now we have to develop the algorithm so it can be efficient in terms of disposal. Then like, okay, if the missile is hitting nothing, low value target, prioritize this. And it's like, now they are reaching 90%. That's how it's supposed to be. And I have to say, Soviet Union was a bad friend of India. They kept giving us cheap stuff and we never developed the balls. We never developed the balls to fail and we never risked it. And that created a penalty for us. For example, America gave us a very good bitch slap. During Kargil war, America, as a good friend, they bitch slapped India. It's like, we're going to cut your GPS. It's like, ouch. And we could not fly and we could not manage. Again, according to them, they were saying it's like we are doing it to de-escalate the situation. And again, they went to Pakistan. It's like, bruh, chill down. India, we have cut like basically they were cross blackmailing us, so to say. So shut down or we unlock their GPS, or it's like, we have cut down your GPS, chill down. So it was like, again, that was a very good bitch slap. We learned for a fact that you cannot rely on weapons technology from some other country. What did we do? We built a NAVIC system. It's an Indian navigational system. So now Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, and basically all Indian assets no longer can be cut off from someone else. So, but you need that balls to fail. If you do not fail, you get crippled like Air Force, whereas like we don't actually have anything. Even now, 75 years later, like I can damn sure we would have crossed Mark 1 very easily if we just kept building it. Like maybe 15 years from independence, we would have been sorted now. We never did, because again, did not have the balls to fail. Like Indian Railway is a joke for this exact reason. It's like there were many engineering firms that like went to railways, like we can build things rather than buying from Switzerland. And the joke is that they always ask, okay, give us 20 years of safety data. Whatever you are buying, like whatever Indian Railway is buying from someone else. They must have built it at some point. It's not like photosynthesis made Japan's Shinkansen. They had to build it, they had to test it, they had to risk it failing. If we do not risk, we starve. So that's the whole point. So this is the fundamental roadblock, so to say. So it's a cultural thing. It's not something that, oh, every country cannot do. No, it cannot. It has to require faith in long term and balls to fail. This is one thing that I do respect Americans for. They have balls to fail. They're like, oh, we build this flying fortress. Yeah, it falls apart. Okay, we keep polishing it. Tell me which aircraft I'm talking about. Hint, its tail flew off. They fly it, the tail blew off. and they kept polishing it. There was a whole investigation how the heck this garbage happened to US Air Force, and they kept polishing it. Now it's like Teddy, the longest lasting. Again, I think you can easily figure out which aircraft I'm talking about. The tail flew off. Like plane was going, tail was like yeet. So you have to know, culture must pay for the long game. Basically, if the culture is there, we're going to develop our own thing. It's going to be painful. It's going to be brutal. But in long term, it gives us tech. Tech allows us to have cheap without the penalty, without this. So that's a long-term solution without penalties. So, or risk failing to ruins. It's like the sole reason why Bangladesh started to fall apart. Half of the countries that you do not know about primarily getting stuck in this loop. Even though majority of the planet got decolonized around after World War II, the reason of growth is directly proportional to balls to fail. The countries that just risked everything, like let's say South Korea, they went all out. The country did not. Bad things happened. Then we come to miracle of mass production. Now, mass production is a gift from Industrial Revolution. Now, this puppy changed the game. This puppy made dirt cheap things easily. Meaning, cars went from you had to be a royalty to even dream about it to like, bruh, new model came out, bruh, let's buy it. So this happens. Now, there is a penalty of it. Mass manufacturing does work. It's a reality. Like our junkyard will look like a miracle waste to few hundred years ago. Like it would be incomprehensible the amount of things we have in our junkyard. I'm not talking about the actual world. It's just the junkyard. They're like, are you telling me that there is a freaking supercomputer in a junkyard? I'm not even joking. Again, nowadays it's not that, but like it was like, what? It can do millions of calculation. We are like, brah, that's a Raspberry Pi. So you get the point. So it does make dirt cheap things easily. However, there is a very big ass penalty to it. You must know in advance. You must know that things that you are building, basically any company, like let's say Seagate, they are building this. They have to know that they're going to sell it before they are even building it. They have to know. Only then they can risk that kind of expenditure. And again, they will have a calculation where it's like, okay, at least we must sell 5 million of these to make a profit. And if we can sell 6 million, we can consider it good. Any number above that is like profit. And again, they sell 10 million of it, they're going to have orgasm. But again, something opposite could also happen. They can make a phone and they're like, if we need bare minimum to sell like 2 million of it to, justify the cost. And then they're like, we only sold 1.5 million. That's a loss. Same happens with, movie tickets. You're like, okay, they made millions. No, they spent more than that. So it could be a loss. You do need to know in advance or control the demand itself. That's why whenever you watch Apple commercial, they never talk about anything else. It's like, there's not better than competitor. No, there is no competitor. Why they are doing it? They are creating that psychological need where you have to understand that that's the demand. There is Apple, there is nothing else. And they have succeeded. I have to give it them. Like they have succeeded. So it's basically control the demand itself. You create the demand itself to safeguard investment. It's not a bad thing. It's just that it can get out of hand at times, so to say. And it directly improves quality of life. Like India's growth in last 30 years is exponential. Basically, we went from not even having landlines. I'm not even joking. Like when I was a kid, landline only had 4 digits. We got 5, 6 digits while I was a kid. Like I know my landline number when it was only 4 digits, and then it became 6 digits. Then it like I've lived through that. And here's it. That was when I was young. What is now? 5G. We good. And what about a home internet? Yeah, I have fiber. 300 megabits per second up and down. And what is our capacity? 2 terabytes. And it's cheap. And the reason I'm not getting gigabits is like I do not like to pay that much. It's like 300 Mbps is and stable fiber. So fundamentally, all this happened, quality of life improvement happened because of mass production. However, while mass production is awesome, it does have a penalty to environment. It destroys environment. Basically, if you're making 1 or 2 clothes, or like, some villages are making a few clothes, it has no environmental impact, almost negligible. But you have like one giant factory mass producing millions of clothes. Yeah, the water that is coming out of it would be pure poison, pure quality, 24 karat poison. So at that point in time, how do you define whether it's going to be profitable or not? Well, it goes back to profit margin. Basically, if a clothing line company is like, okay, we have this much profit margin. If we compromise this much, we can still have profit. But again, a profit margin will go down. And then we'll be like, okay, but again, we will not have poisonous water output. Now, some companies do that. For example, in India, we do have like think in this way. European countries have like a really high, strict water standard. China has nothing. India is somewhere in middle. So that's why clothing line went to Bangladesh. There has nothing. So there are Indian companies, and again, government did facilitate it with tariffs and all that, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna reduce our profit margin, but it's not gonna be too bad. And again, even buying from somewhere else, you still have to import it, import duty and all that. It's like, you know what, it's not that important, so to say. So you do have to figure out if a culture as a selectively prioritize profit margin or not, because again, almost all industrial waste has a solution to it, I can guarantee it. And again, we never just magically, oh, we have waste. No, everybody from day one figured, oh, this is a acid, what the hell are we gonna do with this acid? Oh, this is a this toxin, what the hell are we gonna do with it? From day one it was always there. It's just that, do we pay for it or not? And again, paying for it is not like, oh, paying for it simply means the profit margin goes up and down. So are we willing to do that? Or again, pass the cost down to the customer itself. So that's up to you. Now, this is the good, the penalty. Now, penalty gets amplified if you have the wasteful penalty of mass production. Basically, if culture becomes wasteful, for example, back in my childhood, when I was in school, we used to have lychee lights. These lights were like, in Diwali, we used to use that to decorate our house. Cool, awesome. And if any light bulb fused, we used to crush it, twist it, tada, everything was. Now, then we had Chinese light, rice light, so to say. Yeah, then we just throw away. If the whole string of, like even one thing malfunction, we just throw it away. We become wasteful. And again, that was the intent. That's what was designed. They were making things that had very short lifespan, and you're supposed to throw it away before it is completely expired. The reason for that, again, company wants you to throw things away before it fails, because again, that gives them the least amount of what you call blowback. If I have to change my Samsung because it malfunctioned, I'm going to be hateful towards Samsung. But if it was like, it's still working, and then I changed my phone, I'm like, okay, yeah, I used it for 3 years and now I bought a new phone, I'm not going to be very hateful towards it. And do not worry, all my phones goes through my whole family. So basically everybody in my family is running on like second or third hand phones at this point in time. Family phones, not some family phones. So everything is quite used in our scenario. Again, you want that. You do not want wasteful scenario where everybody is getting iPhone 16 and launch. Yeah, that's a wasteful. Companies want that, but you do not want that, because if you do that, you will get stuck in a cycle of what we call cheap junk. For example, in 1980s, all the keyboards that were made, yeah, almost all of them still survive. So like how? Well, here's it. Because they were so expensive, they were made with a double shot, almost all of them. So they survived years, decades, many decades. What about cheap keyboards today? Yeah, good luck, their legends will not last. Like, you can get keyboard for very cheap, that's the good part. Penalty part is a cheap junk. It's not gonna last, you have to keep changing it. Heck, I just bought my first double shot keyboard and holy crap, it's so expensive. You would think it would be cheap given the fact that we have been making it from 80s. No, the company successfully created a scenario of wastefulness. The more wastefulness, the more quick cycling, the more cheap things we started to buy, the more cost went down, the cycle continued. Basically, how Swiss manufacturing and German engineering, they used to have tools that was like very expensive, but people were very happy to buy it because once they bought it, it's done. You're done. You do not think about it. You just keep maintaining it, chiseling the ways, those ways they used to do. Done. Done, man. You do not have to do anything other than that. Bought it, maintain it, forget about it. Then Chinese stuff started to happen. People bought it, but again, they had to keep buying new and new because they did not last. But by that time, the companies that were making the original quality stuff, yeah, they disappeared. So fundamentally, the wastefulness is the penalty of it. If culture does not become wasteful, then only we're going to be good. If we become wasteful, we dead. So quality would be the lost product of this. If and nothing can be done once you cross a certain threshold. Like exactly like the mills, the manual mills that used to be made in America, used to be made in Europe, they were so long lasting, they are still functional. But you cannot find something of that quality today. It's like good luck. Like some companies, I think government is like giving them grant funds to get back into the swings. So fundamentally, it's a really dangerous thing. So, and again, it's not a bad thing on a company also, because again, if everybody is buying super cheap item, you cannot say, oh, mine keyboard is like 10 times more expensive. It's not gonna fly. So mass production does require culture to be very mindful of the waste. If we become wasteful, it spirals very quickly. Then we come to the one good thing about capitalism. Competition. So why competition is so good? It's self-correcting mechanism. For example, like you are driving a cycle, why the cycle remains static, as in like standing when you are riding it? It's self-correcting. So competition does the same thing. For example, I can guarantee you every company, be it Ford, be it Maruti, be it Tata, be it Mahindra, be it basically Toyota or Mazda, whatever, Lexus or whatever have you, all these brands are very envious of the fact that how the heck Tesla happened. How? But again, you want that. You want them because now they also have to improve exponentially. So fundamentally, more players equals more options. More options means you have to work your ass off to get profit. How can you get profit in that scenario? Efficiency in a market which has a lot of competition. Efficiency equals money made. For example, if you have like 5 or 6 courier companies who are like, shipping goods, India has a lot of them. So the company that is very clever with their asset management, very clever with their public resources and all that jazz, they will succeed far better than a company that is wasteful. So efficiency rewards you. For example, in the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken, 80s and 90s, when UK got its like first mobile phone, there was Bell, and if I'm not mistaken, Vodafone is the other company. And Vodafone was a very small company. They did not have the money or asset of Bell, but Bell got stuck in that. Why? Bell was like, hey, we already had this sort of telephone exchanges. We're gonna put giant tower on top. What Vodafone did is like, we do not have that kind of money. What if we put small towers and we actually traveled in a van and actually marked out every part of the map for coverage? So Vodafone's coverage was better than a very expensive company because Vodafone got rewarded by the competition. Competition rewards efficiency. They were very efficient for that. Like, okay, rather than putting the whole mobile tower in one place, what if we put it distributed? What if we check it? Like, is it actually covering the damn place? Again, it's like I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. So company gets rewarded for efficiency. Like companies like, what if we actually spend the time figuring things out rather than just doing things? Oh, it actually pays. So that's a good thing. Everybody, wants that, like consumer side. However, every company at that point in time, like whatever company you are talking about, they want to become monopoly. Why? So they can relax. It's painful. Like imagine being Ford and be like, I'm the daddy. And then there's a new, American car company happens that's literally battery bank on wheels. And you'll be like, what the hell happened? How the heck this has this much buzz around it? How the heck it crossed 1 trillion evaluation? So, they cannot relax anymore. Now they're like, okay, we have to keep doing it, keep refreshing it, upgrading and all that. So fundamentally, companies want that. But what culture should do? Culture must have a culture of seeking change. For example, I'm buying Samsung phone. I think I'm on my 3rd Samsung phone. So I have to make sure that the 4th one should be something else. Now be mindful, when I'm saying seeking change does not mean change everything every time. It generally means you have to have a culture of it, where it's like, some people are, keep changing cars. They're like, hey, this is cool and all, but I want change. They'll be like, hey, these phones are cool, but I want to change. Like as long as culture has that inherently, where the people are changing it, that gives them opportunity. Because our laziness here in this layer of selection, that has a fallback effect. For example, people who risked it, like idiots like me back in the days when Bulldozer was launched, we bought it, right? That's how AMD got the money. That's how AMD released Ryzen, and that's how our Ryzen is a very good option nowadays. But again, imagine everybody in the early days when they're like, not willing to change. What would have happened? Bad things. So culture must have that ecosystem where they're like, okay, let's change things. We have used it in school, again, not on critical things, mission critical things, but things that you can change. Hey, I'm happy with Sony. How about I change to something else? I'm happy with Sennheiser. What about to change with something else? So fundamentally, culture must seek to change. Otherwise, this will make a monopoly. For example, Nvidia. And why Nvidia is so successful? Again, they had a critical mass. They did do good. Like, let that be very clear. They have this monopoly earned. So what they did is very clever. It's like they developed a lot. They were sinking money into CUDA, and that CUDA became a very good tool. Other people were like, okay, let's develop things on CUDA. That created a feedback loop. It's like, you need Nvidia graphics card to get CUDA. CUDA is being developed by developers. Developers are developing tools. That tools is driving sales. The sales is driving the developer team. Out of now, even if you want to jump into AMD or ARC, it's very difficult. And again, I hate AMD's this mindset where they're like, okay, Nvidia is selling $1,500 graphics card. What if we sell $1,400 graphics? Like, bro, you do not have market share to have like mines bigger than yours. Like, be bare minimum. Like, okay, this much money, little bit of profit, that's it. Get market share. This is not healthy. The market share of Nvidia's graphics card at this point, and in all sectors, be it CPUs, supercomputers, all gaming sectors and all that, it's not good. And by the way, Intel Arc almost went under 1%, 0% basically. So if culture, and again, it's a bit about on Nvidia, it's a bit on AMD and Nvidia also, Intel also. So, but culture has to play a role into it. Culture has to be like, you know what, let me risk it. I did risk it. I did bought ATI. So, and oh, my second one was AMD. So, but again, then third time I was like, okay, let's change it. So I changed it. So monopolies will become real if you do not change your habits, and laws have to be in place to basically keep things fair. Because as once you start to have enough inertia, you can just buy your competition. That's the most dangerous part. And if that things get out of hand, bad things will happen. Fundamentally bad things will happen. For example, like why there is no other aircraft company? It's super easy to make aircraft. Then why the heck there is no other company? Yeah, in years, you should Google it yourself. Companies came in, they're like, okay, let's make a passenger jet or business jet. They made business jet, and Boeing was like, okay, we know your BOM cost. There is a reasonable, you can get BOM cost reasonably. So it's like, okay, the craft is gonna cost, BOM is $5 million. You have to sell it at much higher than that, otherwise you can't justify like 2 years you spent on it. But let's say that 5 is there. So that gives you a bare minimum. You must sell it for 6, otherwise you will go bankrupt. They're like, what if we build the same craft and we sell it for 4? It's like, sir, it's gonna be loss. Yeah, it's a loss leading product. And voila, you introduce loss leading product, poof, your competitor goes poof. It's job of the law to make sure that does not happen. That's why you have BOM cost and all that. It has to be there. Because again, loss leading products done by a major corporation equals poofing all competition. So things have to be kept fair. Otherwise, every company, again, even if I was running a company, I would wish the same thing, which again is ironic. Why the heck Bill Gates helped Apple back in the old days? Now, to be fair, he did had a valid point where it's like, if Apple disappeared, the cases that were being built against him would have become nuclear at that point in time. So they're like, yeah, it's better to have some competition rather than, a crippled Apple is better than no Apple. That's what Steve Jobs said to him. So back in the days. And again, awareness is key to health. At this point in time, people have to be aware that you cannot be like, stuck in your ways. I always buy Ford. I always buy this. Again, some things you may not want to risk, fair enough. But again, that should not be your whole personality. It has to change. It has to. Otherwise, we're going to suffer this. So that's the competition part. Now we come to the ugly part of it, corruption. Now, all system, you have to be very clear, does not matter whether you study chemistry, does not matter whether you study physics, biology, whatever have you. All system fundamentally goes through failure and rot. For example, you have a polymer chain, expose it to sunlight, it starts to break down. Again, it's not corruption or anything, it's just fact of life. So corruption is like that. Anytime you have a system that will fail, it will rot. And the only way you can have a system that lasts long is very simple. How our body lasts. You periodically maintain it, and you try your goddamn best to have everybody playing fair under a defined rule of law. Do your best on that. That's like exactly how our immune system, they do try to keep cancers out, and they do succeed. That's why we do live like freaking, nowadays we are having people who are living 120 years. Damn. And we are that good. Again, immune system is doing that best. And that's price of reality. Like, you don't be angry about it. Be like, okay, this is what it is. Like, do not get very hateful towards corruption, because again, that will cloud your judgment. You have to be very practical about it. It's like, it's gonna be there. You just have to make sure that you keep trimming it. It's like 5%, let's say your tolerance is 5%. Okay, I shall not let it grow higher than 5%. You're like, okay, I want 0. Yeah, it's a good aspirational goal, but likelihood of achieving is 0. And again, you may make so much bureaucracy to counteract that. Bureaucracy becomes the poison itself. So fundamentally, it does require maintenance. You cannot run away around, oh, only if people were awesome. It's like, no, it is what it is. It's a reality. We have to deal with it. And we have to, like, what do people do? We build and maintain agencies whose sole job is to maintain fair market. For example, in case of India, Competition Commission of India. Again, the similar thing can be found in all countries that have brain. So the idea is very simple. These people their sole job is like to keep studying things, to observe things. Basically, BOM cost, who the heck monitors it? They monitor it. So if any company is like, hey, a big company randomly starts to do a loss leading product, and again, there is an upcoming customer, they're like, hey, they can send a cease and desist. They have a whole authority of the law to compensate for that. And again, that's how we know that big companies were doing that to small competitors, which succeeded, unfortunately. So you have to build and maintain them. Now, there's a penalty for rule. Does not mean anything. Hesdale, you have a rule. You cannot spy on people. That rule has no teeth. Like, that book is not going to fly and directly bite Zuckerberg. That has nothing, no penalty. So it needs strength. Now, enforcement of that strength must come from basically fines and penalty. For example, if let's say Mark Zuckerberg spies on people. Okay, cool. And the penalty is $1 million. He, by spying, got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's just going to take the money and throw it at your face. It's like, go away. So fundamentally, that's what it describes as our weakness in finance and morality. And again, I'm genuinely shocked how little the government is doing about this. It's like, dude, you know their, budget, you know their budgeting, you know their accounting, you know their tax records, and they did an illegal thing. This is like, oh, we cannot actually hurt them. It's like, no, that's your job. It's your job to hurt them and hurt them badly. It's like, if they get hurt, actually hurt, it's like, okay, oh, this book is not something that I can just YOLO around it. Okay. So that has to happen. But again, we are really failing in this department. And culture only has control about this factor. Culture, as a culture, we have to, be mindful of that, be aware of it. If we fail, then again, there is no one left to blame. Because again, you can blame it, but there won't be any point to it. I rather live in a world where that is not the case. So corruption is the final layer that we have to deal with. So this was a presentation on the paradox of money, so to say. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.